And he was just like, I got girls as young as 13, 12, 13, you know.
Oh, yeah, standing right there.
And it's just like, what? He's like, yeah, they're in the house right. We can go right now. I'll come back later. So we turned the information over. That spun into a bigger and a bigger and a bigger case, right?
Right.
We were introduced to a female trafficker by the name of?
Miss Cartagena.
Miss Cartagena. This whole group of traffickers got together. And they came to us wanting not just to supply us with children for a party, but they wanted a business partnership. They wanted us to invest in property so they could build a child sex hotel. Hey guys, Tim Ballard here. This is In the Trenches. These are the stories of Operation Underground Railroad, our successes, our challenges, our operations. And if you want to donate to make sure that we can continue to make these stories by doing real rescue operations, please go to ourrescue.org and help us out. Thanks so much. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of In the Trenches with Mr. Matthew J. Cooper. Actually, your middle name is Norman, I believe.
That's right.
Norman, like, what's that from? It's a weird middle name.
It's from Scandinavia. Thank you very much.
But is there a Norman in your family, or your parents just thought that was a good name? Like
My grandfather's name, okay? He's dead. Okay, I'm very offended.
You should be. People dying is very offensive. Well, we went chronologically in 2014 from that Haiti operation. I remember going back and forth between Haiti and Colombia. Colombia was also an operation that had begun, or at least the beginnings of it began when I was a government agent. And what had happened was, if you might recall, or maybe you don't, but I had been sent sometime before I had left the government, obviously, to go help do a training to federal police in Colombia on how to infiltrate child trafficking rings. The training that I was doing was actually a PowerPoint presentation. I was kind of bored of doing it. I didn't think anyone really paid attention. Everyone just felt good because we checked the box, right, and did a training. I remember doing that training. I just said, let's just not do this training. Let's just do a case. Like, what are the laws? Where are the kids? And they said, Cartagena is the place to start. We had this whole plan. And we were so excited. And I was like, I'll come back and we'll do this operation. And obviously, there was no funding. There was no jurisdiction. And so coming back to Colombia was also kind of unfinished business. And we went and actually executed on that operation that we had planned in the training. So we roll up there, and were you with us when we went to Playa Blanca, these islands out in the Baru Islands?
The beach, yeah.
And the prosecution, the Colombian authority said, we believe that children are being sexually assaulted out there and abused and sold. The only police out there are tourist police, and they're there to protect the gringos, the tourists, right? And if they want kids, and they get kids, whatever. So we went out there, we walked on that beach, and I remember we were approached by a man named
Fuego,
which in Spanish means
fire.
Fuego means fire. What a weird, you can imagine a guy calling me, I'm fire.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, right? Because it was just in a few seconds, maybe 25 seconds, right? And he was just like, I got girls as young as 13, 12, 13, you know.
Oh, yeah, standing right there.
And it's just like, what? He's like, yeah, they're in the house right. We can go right now. I'll come back later. So we turned the information over. That spun into a bigger and a bigger and a bigger case, right?
Right.
We were introduced to a female trafficker by the name of?
Miss Cartagena.
Miss Cartagena. This whole group of traffickers got together. And they came to us wanting not just to supply us with children for a party, but they wanted a business partnership. They wanted us to invest in property so they could build a child sex hotel. They said, look, we'll build the hotel, we'll keep the talent, we'll keep it packed with young girls, minors, children, and you bring the clients. That was the deal, right? Do you think those kind of sex hotels exist?
Absolutely.
Have you ever been to one?
I've seen many.
When was the last one you went to with me?
Like
Do you
3
remember?
days ago.
So that's what these guys wanted to build, right? And so that was the thing. And we kind of set it up on purpose that way because Fuego's organization, which was run by a guy named Edward, I think they had like 12 kids that they controlled, and we wanted to rescue more. And so that's why we kind of allowed or kind of encouraged the conversation to go towards like building a business, because we're not going to invest in a business if you only control 12. And what we were trying to do, and we're very careful here. We're very careful and there's ways that we can do this to where we're not creating demand, right? The stupid argument that people love to make up that have no idea what they're talking about. The whole O.U.R. creates demand. Like, what does that mean? I don't know, but some professor told me to say that because they want the funding to write books and not rescue kids. Anyway, we have ways to ensure that the kids we're rescuing are kids who are in the process of already being abused. You're not creating victims when you're infiltrating an organization that already exists. That's what we do. These stories are so ridiculous and false that we walk into a bar and say, give us kids. We don't have kids. Well, I have $10,000 here if you can get me some kids. Wink, wink. Like, that never, ever, ever happens. It's like, just so stupid, right?
Right.
But the point is, we knew that he brought other traffickers, including Kelly. Kelly was Miss Cartagena, famous in town, and she recruited kids to her modeling agency. But she was selling them, 12-year-olds, right? So we get basically the traffickers in that entire region to the same place. And they sold us all these kids, right? Ultimately, they brought the kids to the island near to the property that they wanted us to buy, and it ended in the rescue of, oh my gosh, I think it was over 50 people, most of which were children. And simultaneously, we were doing operations in Medellin and Armenia, Colombia as well. Mm-hmm. So it was like a huge roundup called Triple Take. It's pretty phenomenal. And what's interesting about that case is going to Cartagena a few weeks ago. You weren't with me, were you? You were in Ukraine. I testified in that trial. And probably that was the most triumphant part, I think, of the entire operation that was 8 years ago. Because when the defense had their chance at me, it was awesome.
Yeah, it sounded incredible.
There was no significant question they could ask me because every question they asked me trying to find something always ended in me saying, and then they tried to sell me 12-year-olds. And then they tried to sell me 12-year-olds. And they finally just said, well, no further questions, Your Honor. Because we had filmed it from 7 angles. So if anything, it showed that even from day one, we were doing things right. I had a very jealous ops chief that came in that I hired and got to the point where he thought he should be the face and the boss. And he started these rumors that anything that happened before I was here sucked, including Triple Take,
right?
Which is why they've never had convictions. And the truth is, no, it was a court backlog. It was COVID. And it all proved to be true when the defense has nothing on us. It is airtight, and it's a very righteous operation. So that's kind of the overview, right, for the audience to understand what Triple Take is. And you can watch Triple Take on an upcoming documentary. It's already won 3 Emmys, 2 Tellys. No one's seen it yet. We kind of wanted to get the prosecution through and get the convictions out of the way so that we wouldn't mess it all with or taint juries or whatever else. But now it's ready to come out. So give me your perspective as the quiet observer, always right in the action. The operation in Cartagena,
right?
Armenia, and Medellin.
For me, it was just a ton of logistical support, because O.U.R. was so small at that time. I remember we just had one travel agent. And so it was like a billion phone calls because we had to send people.
And you're doing a lot of logistics during this, right?
Yeah, I was sending people to Medellin, sending people to Armenia, sending people to Cartagena. So I was taking care of that. And then it was really just supporting you in any way I could to make sure that we could get what we needed, which we did, which was proven in court last week or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But for me, honestly, I sat back as a student, that's probably why I was quiet, because what do I know? I didn't go to academy like you did and some of our colleagues like Osborne and such. So it was just a lot of note taking, lessons learned and things like that, which is why I'm one of your trainers now.
Yes, you're chief trainer. So, do you know who this is right here? Do you recognize him? He's got 3,000 followers.
Yeah, so he was one of the survivors.
Yeah, he was one of the children that we had rescued. So him and I stay in touch quite a bit. And he works for us now, right? It's an amazing story. So this kid was rescued in Triple Take, stayed with us. We made sure he got the aftercare resources he needed. He ended up coming out of that program, pretty well healed. And he wanted to go to school. So we sent him to school. We got him set up with his first business. And then he became an advocate for us. He would go into the streets of Cartagena and look for trafficking victims. He found this one young woman who was pregnant based on, being raped and trafficked. And he went to her and started talking to her, and she said that she wanted to either abort the baby or kill herself, which would naturally abort both, her life and the baby's. And he was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Have the baby and I'll adopt the baby. And she kept the baby and he adopted the child, right? And so he's recruiting and working with a lot of the survivors. So being that this is one of our very first kind of rescue operations, and it's kind of the first time that children became young adults, did it work? Not only are we getting a conviction in this prosecution in the trial, but so many of their lives are changed forever. In fact, their lives were defined in a positive way by this, because they took it and said, we're going to now fight it ourselves. One of these survivors is raising a child who was brought to the world through the tragedy of human trafficking, but her life is now beautiful. So there's so many amazing things about Operation Triple Take that bore out fruit, and
they're still happening.
Yeah, they're still going on.
Yeah, for me, again, that was like, I was definitely useful, but I was also shocked at it, because just like when I was in Haiti, it was like when you hear about it, you go to a Tim event and he talks about trafficking, and then you see it. It's like there's a whole nother element that just shocks your system. And I think I felt the same sort of way there, because I remember when the boat pulled up.
The kids get out of the boat.
Yeah, they get out. And it's kind of like,
it's like in your face now. It's like,
yeah,
gosh.
I know. I was like, I felt like dizzy almost. Yeah.
So Operation Triple Take. What was after that operation? There was an operation actually before those two. Between Haiti and Colombia, there was an operation in Dominican Republic.
Right.
And it was a really amazing operation. It was the first time we worked in Dominican. There were, I think, 20 plus rescues. No, I think there's about 20, I think. But 9 of them, you don't get to choose who the traffickers bring to the sting operation, right? But 9 of them were children. And I remember we worked together with 2 other organizations, one of which handled all the aftercare. We were still building our aftercare program. And 7 traffickers were arrested. 7 traffickers were convicted. 9 children got aftercare services. It didn't get a lot of attention at the time, because it was put between, kind of bigger stories in some ways, how they played out in Haiti and in this huge operation in Colombia. But it got some notoriety several years later, didn't it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was.
Because there's this
disgruntled.
There's this woman. Okay, so Meg Connolly. I was friends with her father. We were in the same ward in church. He lived down the street from me. And I can't remember what happened. Someone said, hey, why don't you, she had just started being a blogger and she was having some success and we were brand new. And she's like, hey, why don't you come watch an operation? So she participated very minimally, right? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Like it was like she came in, we gave her very minimal exposure, and then she left. She wrote 2 glowing reviews about the operation, right? 7 years later, after O.U.R.'s getting big, decides to take advantage, decides to change her narrative 8 years later, posturing herself as an expert in human trafficking with her, all of 45 minutes of exposure.
Right. Jeez.
And comes out with this story, completely just lying about me, about the operation, saying that it somehow was all a fraud. And, I've always said this about her story. If you can tell the story of that operation in the Dominican Republic without mentioning the fact that 9 children were rescued and had 3 years of aftercare, that's how real it was, and that 7 criminals were arrested and convicted and all serving sentences to this day. If you can tell the story of that rescue operation and just leave out those 2 facts, that's problematic, because that leaves us with only 2 conclusions. One, you are an absolutely horrific reporter, journalist, whatever you want, blogger, whatever, because that stuff is actually available online. Or you're a liar. It's one of those 2. Either way, you have about 0 credibility. And so anything else in the story is BS. And of course it is. And I'm bringing this out on purpose, because I'm not defending myself. I'm defending children. Meg, you think you're hurting Me? You're not. We're stronger than ever. You're hurting children because you're discrediting the vehicle that might be the only vehicle available in certain situations to rescue certain children. So that's on you. And I'm defending children right now by exposing what you did. I'm actually grateful because if it wasn't for Meg, I wouldn't even be talking about, I would have forgotten a lot largely about that operation. So it's a great opportunity to explain what we're doing. And we're still in Dominican Republic. Over 300 rescues that we've done in Dominican Republic. We read the article or pieces of it to Francia Hernandez, and she was appalled, just appalled. Like, I can't believe we let this person in this operation. I'm like, we're sorry. The greatest threat to children right now, honestly, more than the traffickers in a lot of cases, are people that disparage others in the nonprofit industry. Like,
yeah, it's some of our hardest battles. Certainly been the most draining and taxing, I think, on us over the last 10 years. It was completely unexpected. I think we went into this like with swords out, like, yeah, let's go get the traffickers. And then it was like, start getting hit by all sides. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the battlefield you never expected was the one at home.
Yeah.
Again, the good guys who decide, I want you to hurt. I want you to fail. I want you to, but we're fighting. We used to just say, turn the other cheek. And we did as long as we could. Cause it was like, if this is just me, if a pride thing, like I have to be right, or I need to be loved or something, then that's no reason. But it got to the point, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, no, this is not about me. This is about children. There are I can point to operations that because of lying people, including elected officials, who lied about O.U.R. and directly led to the shutting down of rescue operations that couldn't have happened. These are true stories. These are real children. And people playing politics with it, people playing popularity contests with it. It's sick. It's disgusting. And you're not a trafficker, but you're an accomplice. You're an accomplice. If you're taking shots at a vehicle that's going to save kids, what are you? What are you? I'm not calling you a human trafficker. What would you call that person? The vehicle's on its way to rescue, and you're out there shooting bows and arrows and throwing rocks and trying to stop it, trying to mess it up. What are you?
An accomplice, an enabler, a bastard.
Yeah. And with that word, we will end this episode of In the Trenches. See you next time.